Welcome to the treatment room, Dr. Youn. I was so excited to get your DM. I almost fell
Thank
off
you.
the couch. And I've just been listening to your podcasts and looking at the manuscript from the book you sent
Oh,
me
cool.
all week. So we're
Thank you.
so excited to dive in and talk to you
Well, I
more.
appreciate it. Yeah, thank you. Is my sound okay?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Guys, I want to formally introduce Dr. Youn. He is America's holistic plastic surgeon. He's a nationally recognized board certified plastic surgeon with over 4.5 million subscribers on his YouTube channel and 8 million followers on TikTok, which is where I first saw you. And we're going to be talking all about some of his secrets for turning back the clock from his new book, Younger for Life, using the process of autojuvenation, which we're going to talk more about. Dr. Youn, I am curious to hear, how did you first get into medicine, and did you know you wanted to go into plastic surgery?
Well, I got into medicine literally the day I was born. My parents decided I was going to be a doctor. And this happens to a
Okay.
lot of, I think, Asian kids as they grow up. And so I had this idea that I wanted to be a surgeon because that was what my parents told me I was going to be. But then the day, so I'm in medical school, and the day that I saw a 60-year-old man stumble out of the call room at 3 in the morning to tend to a trauma, I thought, I don't know that that's for me. So my dad wanted me to be this high-powered surgeon, like a neurosurgeon or cardiac surgeon or transplant surgeon, and it's just not my personality. Like dealing with like death and all that is tough. So then I thought for a while maybe I'd be a family doctor because I love the idea of having patients of your own and treating them for their lives. And then I got into plastic surgery, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is it, and it was just fascinating. I've been an artist all my life, and I think that contributed to it. I like working with my hands, and now it's just this whole other thing with social media and writing books and all that. It's just been a lot of fun.
I'm curious to hear. So, when you talk about autojuvenation, what does that really mean?
So I came to a point in my practice many years ago where I thought that I had reached the pinnacle of success. I had a year-long waiting list. In surgery, we look at the biggest surgeries, the most complex, difficult surgeries. The more you do of them as a surgeon, the more you feel you have kind of reached the top. And so in general surgery, that operation is the Whipple. And this is like a 10-hour cancer operation that if you are so lucky to be able to do a Whipple, then that means that you have really reached the pinnacle. In surgery, maybe I believe that's the facelift because, so people will trust almost anybody in some cases to do their liposuction, but man, if they're going to do a facelift on you, they better be a really good doctor. And so for many years, I actually gauged the success of my practice and really the success of my career on how many facelifts I had on my operative schedule. And it came down to one patient who had a horrible complication from her facelift, one that I couldn't have prevented, she couldn't have prevented. It just sometimes bad things happen that it sent me into a tailspin. This was many years ago and got me into really revisiting, am I doing the right thing for my patients? And I came to the realization after months and months of just agonizing, kind of figuring out like, what should I do with my life and my career, that everything I was taught in residency and even in medical school, the goal of plastic surgery was wrong. And the goal has always been to bring people to the operating room. The idea to cut is to cure. And I realized that the goal should be the opposite. It should be, how do I keep people out of my operating room, yet still be happy and especially with their appearance. Yeah, so it's the idea then, after figuring out like, look, I'm doing this the wrong way, to go to surgery first is the wrong thing to do. And I said, let me really research all the different things that we can do to turn back the clock without going under the knife. And that's the whole idea of autojuvenation is how can you use your body's own regenerative abilities to rejuvenate itself? And really, when I look at it, it's kind of five main things. And you're looking at what you eat, when you eat, supplements that you take, skincare products, and then non-invasive treatments. And that's kind of the gist, the basic thing, the premise of my new book, Younger for Life, is how do you use those kind of five things to turn back the clock naturally so that hopefully you don't want surgery in the distant future.
Totally. I want to give you the floor and kind of hear more about each of those because I think that's something my audience is definitely interested in. Do you want to touch on like some things you think are important kind of for each
Yeah, sure.
sector of preventing aging?
Yeah, and I think you do a great job in your podcast because you really get into the details of aging and skincare and the collagen of your skin and how all the skincare products work on a really deep level. So, what I'd like to do is let's start by focusing on what I consider to be kind of four of the main causes of our skin aging. It's not everything, but it's the four that I really focus on. The first thing is collagen degradation. Okay, we know that our skin is composed 70 to 80% of collagen, and we know that our skin loses about 1% of the thickness of collagen every year after about our mid 20s or so. In women after menopause, that increases up to 2% a year. And that's why my mom has got a lot thinner skin than I do. That's why you see sometimes little old ladies who've got skin that is so tissue paper thin that they can get tears just by getting a scratch. And so, really, one of the goals should be because collagen degradation is a main cause of the aging of our skin, is to replenish that collagen. And in the book, I talk about a collagen supporting diet. And really, how do you support the collagen of your skin? Well, collagen is a protein, it's a large protein. So, the first step you want to do is to then promote collagen synthesis by having a protein high diet. Okay. And so eating protein rich foods, which essentially are going to be healthy meats, that's very important. If you're plant based, then having beans, soybeans, nuts, seeds. There's a lot of different options even for plant based, but you really want to definitely focus on the protein. A low protein diet long term in general will equal more aging of your skin. Now, for the second cause of aging that I focus on, it would be oxidation, basically free radicals. And free radicals basically are these damaging molecules that cause oxidation, which you may have heard of, which can damage the DNA of our cells and can be of our skin cells. And our body fights off oxidation by antioxidants. And I know you've talked a lot about antioxidants on your podcast. What antioxidants do we all like? Vitamin C is kind of the most common one. When you look at your diet, that can take eating a lot of antioxidant rich foods can be very helpful for the overall health of your body and the health of your skin. One simple tip with antioxidants is to eat the rainbow of colorful fruits and vegetables because the actual pigment in that fruit or vegetable, that is the actual antioxidant. So if you eat like a green vegetable, a red fruit, a yellow vegetable, and then an orange fruit, you're going to be getting a variety of antioxidants versus eating all the same color fruit or vegetable. So that's the second cause. The third cause of aging, inflammation. And really for me, that a big part of that is sugar. Sugar ages our skin through two processes, glycation and chronic inflammation from chronic insulin spikes. And so reducing the amount of sugar that you eat, 40%, one study showed that 40% of the standard American diet, the calories in the standard American diet comes from sugar sweetened drinks. 40%. And so just reducing that, if you're listening to this and you have 2 cans of soda pop a day, just dropping that down to 1 can a day is a huge, huge thing for you. And that will help your skin age more slowly. And then the fourth cause that I focus on is buildup of cellular waste. And this is kind of a more complex thing called of a process that we try to encourage called autophagy, which is like intracellular renewal. And that gets into the when to eat part of it, because if you take breaks from eating, like intermittent fasting, you can help promote that autophagy process, get your cells recycling and get that intracellular renewal going again.
I think all of that is so great to mention. I think because I'm focused on acne mainly and what I do talk about the standard American diet, sugar, and how that can affect acne, but also so
Totally.
interesting to be reminded it can really affect how we age too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think sugar, it's interesting because for so long fats have been demonized in our diet. And what we have realized more and more as time has gone on is sugar is a real problem in our diet. And so really reducing the amount of sugar, like I said, the sugar drinks are, I think, the basic thing that you can do to help reduce the amount of sugar that you're ingesting. But also looking at refined carbs, so white bread, white rice, white pasta, and switching from that to whole grains, that can also help to slow down those sugar spikes.
Absolutely. Yep. That's something I talk about with my clients as well in terms of the glycemic load
Yeah,
and how those blood sugar spikes can even play a role in the breakouts we see on our skin. So
totally.
sorry guys, I know all the holiday drinks are out at Starbucks.
Well, I think it's important though too that to realize, I mean, there are a lot of influencers out there who are so strict with their very like, extreme diet. And you shouldn't expect that you need to be like that. And that's why I mentioned earlier, if you're having two cans of soda pop a day, to drop down to one, that's a big win, and that's one thing, my audience is fairly broad. And so what I'm trying to do is, we want to get to the level that you're at in the end. And yes, I have influencer friends of mine who, they cold plunge every day, they do saunas, they eat this, really rigid diet, and it works for them. You don't necessarily have to do that. Make these small little choices, these small changes, and that can really add up to a lot in the long run.
Absolutely. I think for it to be doable in the long run, it has to feel kind of reasonable to each person. And I think everybody is really different with that. Like I love all that healthy stuff, biohacking. Like
Yeah.
I could eat, super clean and really love it. But for somebody else, that would feel completely unrealistic and they couldn't do it for more than a couple days.
Yeah, and there's cost involved too. I'm all about, eating higher quality food. And so if you're talking about meat, it's going for grass-fed, pastured, wild-caught fish. If you're looking at produce, ideally going for organic because you may have a slightly higher nutrition standpoint there. Also, you can avoid some other potential issues with health issues. But in general, not everybody can afford that. And so some people will ask me, well, should I eat organic? Should I always buy organic but eat less of that produce? And the answer is no. Like if I would rather have you have a conventionally grown apple any day over like an organic dessert, product. Just because it's organic doesn't mean it's necessarily healthy for you. And really just focus on trying to get those good, healthy fruits and vegetables and those healthy meats and the healthy fats in you.
I know in your book you have lots of recipes, which I can't wait to make. I have a little screenshot of them. But I'm curious, what are some of your favorite meals that would support healthy aging, or even just foods, things that you like to eat regularly?
Yeah, I think one thing that people don't realize that I would love to bring up is that there is a category of food that is essentially devoid in the American diet, and those are fermented foods. So, what we have learned over the past, 15 years or so is that there is a huge connection between the health of our gut and the health of our skin. Interestingly enough, if you were to talk to holistic health influencers, and I'm good friends with a lot of them, alternative medicine docs, naturopaths, and all that, and you'd say, well, what is the one thing I can do to improve my skin? They'll say, heal your gut. If you ask a dermatologist, what is the one thing I can do to improve my skin? They'll say, wear sunscreen and use retinol. And if you ask a plastic surgeon, what's the one thing I can do to improve the aging of my skin? They'll say, oh, get Botox and maybe have a facelift. And so, really, I think in the end, the whole idea of autojuvenation is kind of combining the inside and the outside, is combining those types of things you can do on the inside to improve the inside health, because your skin really is a magic mirror. It will reflect the health on the inside. And there's a direct connection between the health of your gut and the health of your skin. There are studies now showing that the health of the microbiome, these trillions of bacteria living inside your gut, that really impacts certain skin conditions, especially inflammatory skin conditions. Acne potentially is one of them. And so, one of the things that has happened with our standard American diet is that we have lost essentially all the different fermented foods. It's just not a staple of our diet. And the only time we ever have fermented foods or probiotic rich foods is when we have yogurt. And a lot of times our yogurt is sugary, sweetened yogurt that really isn't good for you anyway. Or maybe people will put a little sauerkraut on their brat in the summer when they're at a grill or barbecue. So really, I think focusing on fermented foods, because fermented foods essentially they contain healthy probiotics or healthy bacteria. And eating those fermented foods will help to transfer that healthy bacteria to your gut. If your gut is filled with good, healthy bacteria, then that's going to show up in the health of your skin. So some foods that I would consider you look at eating are some of my favorites. That would be miso. That would be tempeh. My favorite, kimchi. I'm Korean, and so we have kimchi at almost every meal. Now it gives you horrible breath, but it's worth it for your skin. There's also kefir, there's kombucha, a lot of other options. But that's, I think, a one food category that people don't realize that we really are missing out on. And just to have that once or twice a week can really make a big difference in the health of your gut and then potentially the health of your skin.
Awesome. That's a great, great tip. I know you also refer to aging as like this 3D phenomenon. Could you explain what you mean and what would be like some signs that maybe patients you see complain of in regards to aging?
So when you look at aging as a three-dimensional process, now we're looking at it from a more surgical point of view. And really, many years ago, back in 2004, I was a co-author of one of the seminal articles looking at facial aging and how it is technically in three dimensions and not two. Prior to this time, most of the operations that we did to help a person, quote unquote, look younger were lifts. So it'd be a facelift, a brow lift, an eyelid lift. Essentially, it was lifting things up and cutting out excess skin. What we didn't realize for decades was that the face does truly age in three dimensions. And so not only do we get sagging in a vertical direction, technically downward, but we also get loss of volume. And that was one of the first papers that really described it. It was called the volumetric facelift. And we described how you can do a lift, but also add volume in the form of fat to rejuvenate that third dimension. The problem, like so many things in plastic surgery, is you take a good idea and plastic surgeons run with it and make it a horrible idea. And now you see these people in Hollywood with these huge pillow faces. They don't look natural, and they think, "Oh, a little fat is a good thing. So a lot of fat must be an even better thing." And unfortunately, that's not the case. And now it's become, when I wrote that paper, we didn't have a whole lot of fillers. We literally had collagen, and that was it. Now with the plethora of injectable fillers that we have, it's so easy to just add a little more volume, a little more volume, a little more volume. You know, uh, Courtney Cox was one that has really, I think, been very open about her filler experience and how initially she had it done and she liked it. And then she just kept going back regularly just for little bits here and there. And next thing she knew, she looked weird. And it was not like a one treatment made her look weird, like, oh, after this treatment, that's when I look weird. It was just this kind of insidious, slow process of adding a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, that eventually she's like, what am I doing? And had some of it melted away. But I swear now it seems like she has a lot more of it back. So I don't know what's going on with her.
Oh, it's tough. I think you can really kind of lose sense of reality. And I'm sure you see a ton of that. Do you find yourself kind of saying no to a lot of patients?
Yeah, so I turn down about one out of every five patients who comes to my office. Usually it's because of unrealistic expectations. So they think that the surgery is going to do something for them or maybe for their life that it just isn't meant to. Sometimes they bring photos of people who look very, very different than they do, and they hope that you can give them that body or that face or that nose or those breasts, and it just isn't usually possible. So yes, I do turn down a lot of people. The problem with plastic surgery is that you turn them down and you hope that they take your advice to heart. And sometimes I'll say, look, you don't really need plastic surgery. It's not going to benefit you. If anything, the scars are going to make this area, probably make you feel like you look worse. And then they go to somebody down the street and they're ready to take their money because, hey, here's another person I can put on the operating room table and take their money. And it's just an unfortunate situation.
I'm sure on your side that's not easy either to get that message across. And I'm sure people can be disappointed sometimes. And a lot of my audience is estheticians, and we're obviously
Mhm.
not doing surgery, but I think we can relate with sometimes
Oh,
needing
yeah.
to, tell people no. Is there any kind of like art to that?
I think there is. And as you practice longer and longer, so I've been doing this 20 years that I've been in private practice now, almost 20 years. And as I go, you really get an idea of how to talk with people. I think that the challenge, and you'll know you're good, is if somebody comes in and they know what they want and they will not accept no for an answer, and they leave your office happy and you said no to them, then that's a big, big deal. And it really is a bit of an art of how you talk to people and you kind of see what are their, um, what are they looking for? What drives them? Why are they thinking of having something done? And in the end, it's just being honest with them and explaining why you feel that this is not worthwhile for them. And if you do, and really, one of the things I tell patients all the time when I say no is I say, look, I make my money doing these operations. I would make more money if I were to say yes to you, but I'm saying no to you, not for me, but because I think this is right for you. And when they hear that, I think sometimes it gets them thinking, yeah, why is he saying no when it would benefit him to say yes? And usually people are open to that. Every once in a while, you get somebody that no matter what you say, they're just not going to accept no for an answer, or they're going to get upset or whatever. In those situations, I think the most important thing, if you're a clinician, is just to not blame yourself. There are people out there who are unhappy people who, no matter what you do or say, they're not going to like you, or they're going to get angry at you. And in the end, you have to do what you feel is the right thing. And if somebody doesn't like it, as long as you're doing what you feel in your heart is the right thing, if they don't like it, then that's their problem.
Hmm. I'm kind of wondering, as a follow-up, how does it work if, a patient has a certain idea for something that maybe it's not your specific taste and you don't think it would be dangerous, like maybe it wouldn't be your first choice? How would you handle that kind of conversation?
Yeah, usually if it's a situation where, for me, the way I look at it is if you're looking to change something just for the sake of changing something, then in general, I'm not a fan of it. I think it really depends on what you're doing. If it's a surgical thing, then definitely I'm not a fan because you don't want to put somebody under the knife, have them undergo the potential risk of major complications for a lateral move, okay, for the sake of just changing themselves. It's different if, let's say, you're doing something non-invasive. If you're an esthetician and you're doing something that maybe you're kind of on the fence with, but there's very minimal risk to it, then I think it's going to be a risk benefit analysis of, if this is going to psychologically make them satisfied, then maybe that risk is worth it, as long as the risk is very minimal. So I think that's kind of how I would look at it. But in general, surgery for the sake of change and change only is something that I just tell patients, look, I don't feel you're going to look better if we do this operation. Or I'll say, you know what, I think that there's a good chance you're going to feel like you look worse. And how are you going to feel if you have, let's say, a breast lift and all these scars get real thick? And even if you wear a t-shirt over it, you can see the outlines of your scars. How's that going to make you feel? And if they go, oh my gosh, I would be devastated. And I say, well, look, that can happen to you. Are you sure you want to go down this path? Because I don't think it's a good idea. And sometimes you'll even say, if you were my spouse or if you were my sister or my mom, this is what I would tell you.
Oh, I absolutely love that answer. I'm going to use that if I need to. What are some of the surgeries that you do, and who do you think is the right candidate for each? Like maybe you could talk about facelifts and who would be a candidate for that, or any other surgeries you do.
Yeah, so I mean, really with facelifts, I still operate two or more days every week. And so, even though my big thing, the idea of autojuvenation and using your own body's own regenerative abilities is so important to me, I do know that there are certain situations where it's just not going to get you where you want to be. So if you've got significant jowling, if you've got skin that's hanging, really, I think the big thing you have to consider is excess skin is something that we cannot get rid of unless we operate. Now, excess skin or sagging is different than a loss of tightness. Okay. And I look at lifting and tightening as two very different things. You can tighten the skin with laser treatments, with radiofrequency microneedling, with chemical peels and all that, but you can't necessarily lift the skin with it. Lifting requires actual surgery. And so when you get to that point, and the way I really describe it for, let's say, for a facelift, is I say, when you dislike your jowls and your neck so much that you're going to spend upwards of $20,000 going to the knife for 3.5 hours, get permanent scars around your ears, have a 2-week recovery time, and the potential risk of complications. And you're excited to do this because, man, you hate that your neck and your jowls so much. Then maybe you're a reasonable candidate to have the operation done. And that's how oftentimes I'll present to people if they're kind of on the fence. And sometimes they'll go, oh yeah, I can't take this anymore. Like every time I look in the mirror, it reminds me of, how old I look or how old I am, whatever. And I'm willing to take that risk, then we proceed down that path. If they go, well, I don't know, now that you put it that way, then maybe we step back a bit and say, you know what, should we wait a few more years?
Very good to know. And is there any kind of minimum age you think somebody would need to be for a facelift? Like, say you wouldn't do it if somebody was under
I think it really
45?
comes down to more the aging process. So I saw somebody the other day who was in her late 40s, but she had premature aging and she had lost a bunch of weight at one point in her life. And so she did have quite a bit of loose skin, as if she was somebody in her upper 50s. In general, when you get into the 40s for a facelift, I'm very cautious. Usually, facelifts are performed mostly in people in between the ages of 50 and about early 70s. When I get to the mid 70s, I get a little bit more nervous and concerned about the age and the potential risk of anesthesia related complications. And then under 50, there's that trade off of okay, is it worthwhile to trade the droopiness that you may have for those scars? And those scars extend in front of and behind the ears. There's a little scar underneath the chin. That's the big trade off that you make with that. And is it worthwhile? And if that trade off isn't worthwhile, then you want to hold off.
And what about for people who are a bit younger? I think most of my audience is probably within 25 to 35. What
Mhm.
are some of the common complaints you're seeing in that age range and some of the like bang for your buck cosmetic treatments that you do like?
Yeah, that's a great question because everybody comes in with something a little bit different. At that age group, you are starting to look at early fine lines. You're starting to look at some early looseness happening. Definitely, you're seeing some age spots and sun damage. A lot of that comes down to lifestyle, as I'm sure you know. You like me, when you have somebody show up in your clinic or your office, you can probably tell if they smoke, how well they take care of their skin, and sometimes even their diet to an extent, just by taking a brief look at their skin. You can tell that's that whole magic mirror thing of your skin. And so the first thing that we want to do is look at what their specific issue is. And somebody who's in their late 20s or late 30s, you're starting to have a little bit of skin laxity starting to develop, but usually pretty minor. So doing some minor radiofrequency type treatments, or you can do radiofrequency microneedling if you want to get some early tightening of that. I think that's a great option. So we do a lot of Morpheus 8 in my practice. I think bang for your buck, IPL is fantastic. IPL is a great way, as you know, to reduce dark spots. And for people too who are really cautious with the chemicals in their skincare products, I try to encourage people that look, IPL is completely natural. There's zero chemicals. It's literally just light energy zapping away those dark spots. And you can't get more, I guess, holistic or natural than that. It's just light. But it works so well. And the great thing about IPL is that these devices are not $200,000 for med spas and doctors to buy. And so you don't have to charge as much as, let's say, if you have a fractional laser treatment. And so I think IPL is a super bang for your buck. I think those people too who want to stay kind of on that natural bandwagon. One thing that we don't talk a lot about in traditional plastic surgery and dermatology is red light therapy. And red light therapy is super popular in more of the holistic realm. And I think that that's a great way for people to take matters into their own hands and to autojuvenate themselves by doing by doing red light therapy. Red light therapy, for those people who are listening, if you've not heard of it, it comes in different types. You can have literally like a handheld device that you put on, let's say, a quadrant of your face at a time. And you basically put that red light onto the quadrant of the face for a good 10, 15 minutes, and you move to the next one and on and on. There are other red light devices that are tabletop devices, or like a rectangular box essentially that can do your whole face at one time. And then there's some people who have literally red light therapy beds where you put your whole body into it. For some reason, traditional plastic surgery and dermatology really has not been on the red light therapy bandwagon. I'm not sure quite why. I think part of it is that we don't quite understand exactly how it works. We believe red light therapy helps to work by essentially transferring the energy from that red light to your mitochondria and helping the mitochondria become a bit more powered. Mitochondria being the powerhouses of your cells. And by doing that, you may help to energize the cells and create a more youthful type of a cell. Um, we think that may be kind of a mechanism of it, but we don't know. But what we do know is that there are many, many studies that have shown that red light therapy does have big benefits in the skin. So it can help with fine lines and wrinkles. It can help with dark spots. It can help with overall skin texture and tone. And this is a great way that somebody can do this at home without necessarily going to an esthetician or a dermatologist.
Absolutely. I think that's a great topic as well. Things people can do at home for autojuvenation. I feel like we started to see more of that, especially during the pandemic when people couldn't get into
Yeah,
offices
yeah,
and they were wanting to kind of, take things into their own hands. Is there anything else that you're doing at home to support healthy aging?
Yeah, I think taking supplements is something that I'm definitely a big fan of. Now, I'm not one of those who takes like 100 supplements a day. I have friends of mine who do things like that that I mean are a bit to my belief excessive. But I do encourage my followers and my patients to take a certain kind of group of very simple supplements that I do believe can really help. And so those supplements start out with a good multivitamin every day. So multivitamin, just because we do believe that the food that we're eating now may be less nutritious than it was even 50 years ago. There was actually a study that looked at fruits and vegetables, basically produce, between the years of 1950 and 1999, so 49 years. And they looked at the actual nutrition content in the produce, and they found that the produce gradually had a less nutrition content of 6 different factors over those 50 years. And those included protein, iron, and vitamin C. And so there's this belief that our soil is not quite like it used to be, that our fruits and vegetables are not quite as nutritious as they used to be. And so to take a nutritional supplement can be beneficial. So starting with a multivitamin, I'm definitely a fan of omega-3 fatty acids or fish oil. If you are a carnivore, if you are plant-based, and then algae-based omega-3 fatty acid supplements are what I recommend. And that's just going to reduce the inflammation of your body and of your skin. I mentioned earlier, inflammation being one of the main agers of your skin. The third supplement that I recommend is a daily probiotic. Mentioned that earlier. Same thing with the fermented foods. Eating a daily or taking a daily probiotic, at least 3 billion colony forming units per day is what I usually recommend, giving your gut that healthy bacteria. A fourth supplement I recommend is an antioxidant variety. So there's a lot of antioxidants out there. Resveratrol, I think, is a great one. But combining, there's a number of different types of supplements that you can take that have a number of different antioxidants built into them. And so recommending taking that as well. And then the final supplement that I recommend is a collagen supplement. Typically, what I recommend is a hydrolyzed collagen peptides, because there are a lot of studies that show that taking a hydrolyzed collagen supplement can benefit the collagen of your skin.
I would love to hear more about that. I do think maybe there's a little bit of a misconception of people thinking if I have wrinkles and I use a collagen supplement in my coffee or smoothie, it's going to kind of fill in the wrinkles. Could you kind of clarify like how exactly it's supporting the skin?
Yeah, so I think that that's the problem. Some people say, well, if what can I eat that's going to make the loose skin of my tummy go away? Like, unfortunately, nothing. It's not that powerful. What can I eat that will make my nasolabial folds or my crow's feet go away? And unfortunately, there's nothing. It's not that powerful. But like I mentioned earlier, the skin does get thinner as we age, and you can get fine lines and wrinkles that can become premature. So the way that I recommend collagen essentially is that there are studies that have looked at whether taking a hydrolyzed collagen supplement can impact fine lines and wrinkles, and whether it can impact the thickness of the skin as well as hydration of the skin and elasticity. And there was actually a meta-analysis published back in 2021 of about 1,200 people. They took 90 days of a hydrolyzed collagen supplement, and they found a significant reduction in fine lines and wrinkles, and an improvement in the hydration of the skin and elasticity of the skin. And there have even been studies where people will take, let's say, 2 months of a hydrolyzed collagen supplement, and then they do a biopsy of their skin after 2 months and have found an increase in the thickness of the collagen of the skin. Once again, it's not going to get rid of your crow's feet. Those are too big of a line. Okay. These are things that are going to be more subtle. It's going to be more of like a brightening type of your skin versus an actual eraser of your lines. You need something more powerful than that, like chemical peels, like laser treatments, to truly get that type of a result. But if you're talking about something that you can take daily that can help to slow down the aging of your skin, that can help overall improve the quality of your skin, even improve the strength of your nails, even potentially improve hair growth, then a collagen supplement definitely is a thing. Now, the key with collagen, the reason why a lot of doctors and especially traditional physicians poo-poo collagen, is they'll say that it's a big protein and then it gets broken down in your stomach. And how do you know that it's going to do anything? Because it just gets broken down. There actually was you're on TikTok, right?
I sure am. Yeah.
Okay. So there is a cardiologist who is a nutritionist who's on TikTok, and he's got a big, bushy, gray beard. He talks very how would I say it? He's very self-assured, and he basically just goes out there as like, these are the types of foods that will do this and that. And he made a video, gosh, a year or two ago, basically saying that collagen supplements don't work. The science shows it doesn't work. If you want a collagen supplement, just go take some gelatin, make some gelatin and that will do it. And I disagreed with the video. I know the studies that do show benefits of collagen. But very interestingly, a month or so ago, I saw he posted another video. And he started out with his first video, and then he brushed it aside and he said, I was wrong. Collagen supplements do help the skin. I was floored. But this is a doctor in his probably mid 60s who basically said, look, I was wrong. Collagen supplements do work, and I do recommend that you consider taking them if you want to improve your hair, skin, and your nails.
That's so interesting. I have definitely seen the pendulum swing with that topic. It's definitely interesting to see it kind of evolve.
Yeah, I mean, and in full disclosure, I have my own skincare and supplement line, and our biggest seller for supplements is my collagen. But I tell you, the stories that I hear from people who buy it, people telling me like, "Oh my gosh, my hair has never been thicker before, or my skin looks fantastic, or my joints feel a lot better." I had chronic pain and it's gone away. I was actually visiting my mom a couple of weeks ago, and we were having breakfast again. And she goes, "Tony, my hair's gotten her a lot thicker. Do you think it's that collagen that you keep sending me that's doing this?" I'm like, I think could be, Mom. So, for people who poo-poo it, I would just say, you know what, try it for a couple of months. It's just one scoop a day in your coffee or your tea. It has no taste to it. Try it and see how you feel. I think with a lot of these types of things that we recommend in the more holistic field, it really should be a trial type of thing, because there is something that we call bioindividuality, where our bodies react differently to other people's. Like, we're not a one person fits all. Just like with breast implants, I believe that there's some people who breast implants, they just don't do well with them. They may get breast implant illness, and other people, they do great with them. You may be a person that you take a collagen supplement and you go, holy cow, my skin looks so much better. And then somebody else may take it and maybe they won't have the same results. This is just the way life is. And I think in medicine, that's one thing that we haven't been great at is the bioindividuality and understanding that everybody's bodies act just a little bit differently. And I'm sure you see that with skincare too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And, even diet as well, like fruits and veggies, super healthy. But for specific conditions, like perhaps with a thyroid condition or rosacea, there could be certain histamines or just certain vegetables, which are very healthy, that might not benefit that specific person.
Oh, exactly. And I think a good example of this is gluten. I mean, there is a group of 1% of the population who's celiac, and gluten is just horrible for them. And if you were to talk to traditional physicians, they'll say, oh, gluten is fine. Unless you're celiac, it's fine. But there are a lot more people who are gluten sensitive. And I would estimate maybe 10% of the population where if they just go 2 weeks with no gluten. So, anybody listening here and you go, look, I've got issues where my skin's kind of breaking out. I get a little brain fog, or I've got some kind of aches and pains. I just don't feel great, or my gut doesn't feel great. Just try going off gluten for 2 weeks. Just see how you feel. Maybe you'll feel the same, or maybe you'll find that your chronic pain gets better, or maybe you'll find that your skin clears up a little bit. There are certain things in certain foods that we can react to individually that some people may do well with and some people may not. Part of my book, Younger for Life, we have a 3-week jumpstart. And one of the things that we do in that 3-week jumpstart is we take people off of gluten and dairy and off of processed foods. And just by getting off of those 3 categories of foods, people have found that their skin really benefits from it. Not everybody, will benefit off of it in the same way, but in general, you take away certain of these types of things, and it can really make a huge difference in some people.
I would love to hear more about the 21-day jumpstart.
Yeah, so what we ended up doing is we took a small group of people and, kind of that focus I talked about of what to eat, when to eat, supplements and skincare. And we took this group of people and we basically put them on a collagen supporting anti-inflammatory diet. So it was good proteins, it was good fruits and vegetables. We got rid of gluten, dairy, and processed foods and high sugar foods. We started them on this kind of a collagen supporting anti-inflammatory diet. And then we started, and that was all in week 1. Week 2 and 3, we kept them on that diet, except twice a week, 2 days a week, we would have them do intermittent fasting, where they would stop eating at 8 p.m. and then not eat until the next day at about noon. And one thing that we did with them that's different than any other kind of intermittent fasting or a program that I've seen is that when they started eating again on that intermittent fasting day that they start refeeding at noon, we kept them on a high fat, high polyphenol diet for the rest of the day. And the idea is that that process of autophagy that I mentioned a while ago, that's intracellular renewal, intracellular cleansing, that process of autophagy is anti-aging in general. And my question, and we know that autophagy occurs when you fast. And so the idea behind intermittent fasting to help rejuvenate your skin is that if you take that time not to eat, it will allow your body to process that intracellular waste products and essentially recycle it. When it recycles those waste products, the cells will function more efficiently, and they're essentially functioning as a younger cell. And that's the idea of autophagy. But once you start eating, typically autophagy then stops. Okay, it has to in general be when you're not eating. However, there are two groups of foods that seem to stimulate autophagy even if you are actually eating. And those are healthy fats like omega-3 fatty acid rich foods and polyphenol rich foods. Okay, and so for the rest of the day that they were intermittent fasting, we put them on this high healthy fat, polyphenol rich food to help stimulate autophagy. Even though they've broken their fast, they're still getting that autophagy benefits. We did that for 3 weeks. We combined that with those supplements that I just mentioned to you, those 5 different supplements. So the multivitamin, the omega-3 fatty acid supplement, the probiotic, the antioxidant supplement, and the collagen. And we put them on a very simple skincare routine that I call the 2 minutes, 5 years younger skincare routine. And by doing that for 3 weeks, we had these great, great changes where people are like, my skin looks so much better than it has in years. We had people say that they would go out with their friends, and their friends like, what are you doing with your skin? It just looks so nice, not knowing that they were doing this program with us. And then people even lost weight and stuff. So it was really, really fun. And now we've kind of turned that into a free 21-day jumpstart that we're actually going to start doing January 1st. So that anybody, even if they buy the book or don't buy the book, can even try doing that themselves.
Awesome. Do you want to also just touch on your 2-minute skincare routine and what that entails? I would love to hear from a plastic surgeon's perspective what you think is important with skincare.
So this is nowhere near as detailed as some of the skincare recommendations that you give on your podcast. But what I try to do is create something that anybody could do and they could do over the span of a lifetime. So if you are a skincare enthusiast, this is going to sound very basic to you. If you're not, which I would guesstimate that the vast majority of the population, they use just bar soap and water and a Pond's moisturizer or something on their skin, then this can be, huge for them. And it's really the basics. And so I recommend starting out in the morning, we have them cleanse their skin with a cleanser appropriate for their skin type. We have them apply an antioxidant serum afterwards, typically vitamin C, although the one that we try to recommend is my CE antioxidant serum, which combines vitamin C and vitamin E. It's kind of like a dupe for CE ferulic. And that way you get that synergistic antioxidant component. And then we have them use a sunscreen, at least SPF 30. And that's it in the morning. Cleanse, antioxidant serum, sunscreen. In the evening, super important, we have them cleanse to get rid of the day's worth of grime and dirt and buildup. If they want to double cleanse to get rid of the extra makeup and all that, that's totally fine. And then we put them on a retinoid, typically a retinol. We have a retinol moisturizer, which is a top product in my skincare line. So we put them on that. We just gave it to them because they were, people who were testing out this program. So they would use a retinol every night. And then optional, if they wanted to add a moisturizer on top of that, if they felt still kind of dry, then we said that's fine. Understanding that moisturizers aren't going to be technically anti-aging per se. And then twice a week, maybe up to 3 times a week, we would have them exfoliate. We gave them a very gentle scrub that they would exfoliate 2-3 times a week. If they had sensitive skin, then just doing it once a week. And really, that's it. A very basic skincare routine. I call it the 2 minutes, 5 years younger because we did test it out many years ago on people, and we found it took literally 2 minutes to do it a day. And after 2 months, we had an average of people looking 5 years younger. And so I think that, one thing that you do a great job with is, revealing how just making simple changes in your skincare regimen or even just doing a skincare regimen can really
Something.
benefit your skin in ways that,
Yeah.
yes, you can visibly see it. And it was really exciting because this is the whole idea of autojuvenation in motion is that you are having people do these things that are very simple, very easy, they're natural, and they're watching their skin actually rejuvenate itself without injections or chemical peels or laser treatments or any of that type of stuff.
Yes. And I like all of those things, but I think it just looks 10 times better if you have the right foundation with skincare and lifestyle, of course.
Totally. Yeah. And lifestyle is a big part of the book. We haven't mentioned it yet, but yeah, there's a huge part of it that's, where I talk about yoga and meditation and gratitude. And then you talk about, teeth and hair and all these other things that we can focus on as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was listening to you talking about yoga, and it definitely encouraged me to want to get back into that sometime soon here.
I think it's, your listeners are on the younger side, but I'm
Yeah.
50 now. It's like crazy how did I turn 50.
You look
But yeah,
amazing.
thank you. But what we find as we get older is that I think yoga is almost a perfect exercise because it's so important as we get older to stay limber and to stay have good balance. Because what you never want to do, and this is part of the in my book, is the fear as we get older is falling and breaking your hip. There's actually a 50% mortality rate when you're over 50 and you break your hip. And so for me, one of the big things I put in there is staying young. Part of it is staying limber and staying loose and staying active and keeping that your balance and the fast twitch muscle fibers. So you've got to combining yoga with strength training, you know optimal so that you have strong muscles, you have fast twitch muscle fibers, so you can react quickly if you trip on something, so you don't fall and hit your head or break your hip and that type of thing. And yoga is so good for balance.
Yes, and muscle tone, and even just the mind and reducing stress. I'm always recommending it to my acne and rosacea clients to help get that inflammation down.
Yeah, I think people don't realize just how much stress can age you. I mean, all you have to do is look at the US presidents when they enter office and then 4 or 8 years later to know that stress is a great ager of the body. And so, yeah, definitely one of the things I do recommend is I think meditation is so powerful. And I'm not the best at meditating. I don't do it as often as I should, but when I do, I find that those effects are just, I mean, it's amazing when you think about just the simple act of closing your eyes and just paying attention to your breathing for 10 or 15 minutes, how that can really change how you feel, your emotions, like your emotional health, and even more than that. I mean, it's crazy what just the simple act of meditation can really do.
Yes. I find for me, I'm kind of like you. It's hard for me to sit down and do it. I find if I can just turn it on right when I wake up, like a YouTube video or
Yeah.
even before I go to bed, it kind of is a nice way to help me wind down or wake up.
Yeah, that's a smart thing. For me, we're in Peloton, so I use a Peloton app and do a lot of guided meditations through that.
Dr. Yoon, would you like to end on a little rapid fire
Yeah, sure.
Q&A? We have some questions from Instagram for you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, you can just give a simple answer to these. It doesn't have to
Okay.
be super involved.
Okay.
It can just be kind of rapid fire. Botox or filler?
Botox. Filler is a lot riskier, but Botox, it's low risk, high reward.
Oh, okay, great. Favorite filler if you had to choose one?
Um, right now, I would say Juvederm Voluma because I really love the results of it. But as far as the one that I think is the most applicable that you can use for so many different purposes, maybe Juvederm Velour. I kind of like that one
Mm,
too. So.
okay, haven't heard of that one. Good to know. Favorite laser?
Actually, I would change that from laser to IPL, intense
Ah,
pulse light. I think that that's such a great bang for the buck, and it's so easy, no downtime. You can't really beat IPL.
okay. PDO threads, are you a fan or not?
Not a fan. And just real briefly, the history of them. When I first started practice back in '04, they got real big. They were permanent threads. People promised all sorts of BS, and results lasted 6 to 12 months. And people were having little threads sticking out of their skin years later. So then what happens is a decade goes by and then they come out with new threads that are absorbable. And these new doctors who don't look at history go, oh, look at this great new idea of threading under the skin. And this is awesome. It's a new thing I've never heard of and still lasts 6 to 12 months, but you could pay thousands of dollars for it. Unfortunately, history can repeat itself. And it's kind of unfortunate that some doctors don't realize that.
Good to know. Vitamin C or retinol?
Ooh, they're so different.
I
I would say
know.
retinol, just because I'm more into reversing aging than preventing it. You know, vitamin C being more of a preventer of aging, retinol being more of a reverser of aging. So I'd pick retinol.
Okay. Okay. But you'd probably say both if you
Those are
could.
our number one and number two top selling products. Is our retinol moisturizer and our CE antacid serum, and they go one and two based on they kind of switch places depending on the months. So
Totally. They go hand in hand. So
yes,
you guys don't have to choose. Favorite healthy food?
my favorite healthy food would probably be it's a Korean dish called bibimbap. And yeah, so it's rice with marinated vegetables, usually a fried egg on top, and then marinated beef, which is bulgogi. So that's probably my favorite, especially if it's in a hot stone bowl, and then like the rice gets
Mm.
all crispy and stuff. So good, so good,
Oh, that
so
sounds
good.
really good. Exercise or sleep?
Ooh, uh, I would have to say sleep, although I exercise very regularly. But I mean, who doesn't like to sleep?
Yeah, that's a hard one to
If I
choose
one
too.
or the other, I'd have to pick sleeping over exercising because I mean, after a while, like I can tolerate not exercising for a while, but not sleeping is a whole other deal.
SPF 30 or SPF 50?
SPF 50, although there's really very little difference between the two. SPF 100, I've had some where we've had really high SPFs, and I've had some skin irritation from some of them. So I'm not sure if it's from the higher SPF or just from the formulation, but in general, the higher the SPF, the better. But I wouldn't spend a lot of extra going past 30. You know, if they're the same cost, I'd pick the 50 over the 30. But if the 50 was a lot more expensive, then save the money, just go with 30.
Microneedling or IPL?
I'd pick IPL. Yeah, I think that microneedling is great, especially if you add stuff like PRP, that type of thing. But IPL, like I said, I think bang for your buck, you just can't get a lot better than IPL.
Yeah, you're a big IPL guy.
Yeah.
Favorite treatment to get glass skin?
So right now, my favorite treatment for glass skin is something we call the YPS or Youn plastic surgery gold Filtox facial. And there's a lot of different names for it out there, but essentially it's the hollow tipped gold microneedles where you put your own kind of concoction in it and you microneedle the skin. Those needles will puncture about 5 millimeters into the skin, and what's in the needle will essentially be left into the skin into that little puncture. And so what we do is we have a combination of Botox, HA filler, and growth factors, and sometimes we'll add PRP into it. And essentially, then you just microneedle essentially that whole face, so you get the benefit of the microneedling, but you also get that very superficial injection of this kind of proprietary combination. And if you're looking for glass skin, that's glass skin afterwards.
Awesome. My last question here is favorite treatment, prescription, hack, anything for hair loss?
So for hair loss, the first thing I would look at is going to be going natural. So it would be a supplement like Nutrafol. So I'm actually on Nutrafol. I've had some thinning hair myself. This is something that I put in my book as well. And if you've got thinning hair, I wouldn't just start with one thing. This is what I would recommend. This is what I started. You take a supplement like Nutrafol. You combine that with a laser helmet. So the one I use is Iris Store. And then you want to combine that with ideally dermal stamping in the area where you're getting thinner. Not necessarily micro rolling or derma rolling because you can get your hair stuck in that and stuff, but there's stampers that are dermal stampers. You want to clean it off every time before you use it with some alcohol. And then applying either a topical rosemary oil type of a thing, or you can do minoxidil, or what I've been using is my old mentor, when I went through plastic surgery, he has a company called Hair Prescriptives, and he has this epoxy oil that I put on a couple times a week. And so starting off with that, if that doesn't do it, then I would go to PRP injections. I have not gone to that yet. Um, but those are the things. I would start off with Nutrafol, laser helmet, stamping, and then one of the types of hair topicals.
Awesome. I think that is fantastic. This was so much fun. You packed so much good information in here for us, Dr. Youn.
Thank you,
Could you just
Tessa.
share where can we find you on social media? Where can we get your book?
So my book is called Younger for Life, and it's how to turn back the clock using the process of autojuvenation. So it's all the stuff we've talked about. I encourage you to go to autojuvenation.com. We have a bunch of free gifts for people who order the book, who pre-order it or order it, depending on when you get this. And that includes an extra recipe book. It includes a quick start guide and even a gift certificate to our online store. So autojuvenation.com. And I'm all the different social. You can find me so easily on social media because I'm all over the place. And I want to
Definitely.
thank you so much for having me on your show. This is a lot of fun.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Please come back anytime. We'd love to have you as much as you want to come on. I'm going